Hello, welcome once again to Pale Blooms and Beyond. Thank you for joining us today. If you do like the programming you see here and the musicians and artists that I visit with, please be sure and hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel. Rob Weiss is an American drummer and founding member of the Atlantic City, New Jersey-based atmospheric guitar-oriented unit, Deardarkhead. The band's name comes from an 1867 Irish poem by Sir Samuel Ferguson. And I'm not going to try to pronounce that. Deardarkhead formed in 1988, and the original lineup was Rob on drums, Kurt Douglas guitar, Blakely Parent guitar and vocals, and Josh Miner on bass. Today, the band is trimmed down to a trio with Rob, Kevin Harrington guitar, and newest member James Malizia on bass. The band's longtime vocalist, Michael Amper, left in 2009, but undeterred, Deardarkhead have soldiered on as a threesome until the right singer comes along. To date, there have been 5 recordings on the band's own Fertile Crescent Records label, a 2016 single on St. Marie Records, and a compilation from 2011. Over the years, tracks from the band have been included on several various artist compilations. Well, welcome, Rob.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Well, take us back to the beginning. Where were you born?
In Somers Point, New Jersey. I live in Linwood. Somers Point's the town next over, and that's where I was born, and I'm still in the area. I live in Linwood, and I've been here since 1968.
Okay, all right. So you're kind of a hometown boy. I'm the same here. I grew up in Dallas and lived in and around Dallas my whole life. So, yes. Well, do you recall your early childhood hearing music in the household?
Yeah, I mean, definitely my dad was less into rock and roll and my mom was more into rock. She's a Beatles fan, and my sister's 7 years older than me, also a Beatles fan. So definitely that was an impression on me. But it wasn't until I got a little older that I really got into music.
Okay, okay.
At least rock music. I did play drums from an early age, and I started out on piano.
Oh,
But
did
that
you?
didn't last very long.
Okay. I was going to say, how old were you when you started playing piano?
I was probably in first grade. I had a few friends that were drummers at the time. I wanted to be a drummer, and we had a piano in the house. And my mom was like, "Well, we have a piano. Everybody in the family plays. Why don't you just give it a shot?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll give it a shot." Um, we had a very nice piano teacher. She would come over all the time. And then at one point during to my house while I was on the piano lesson, I was like, "Hey, can I use the restroom?" So I go down the hallway and I'm in the restroom and I don't come out. And my mom knocks on the door. She's like, "Rob, are you coming out?" I'm like, "I want to play drums." And that was it. So that's kind of the origin story on playing drums.
Okay. You refused to and stayed in in the bathroom.
Yeah. And then I kind of joined I started playing drums after that, and then eventually got a little older. I was like in the middle school stage band and things like that. But it wasn't until end of high school where I kind of, got into the idea of having a band.
Okay. Well, talk about, can you remember one of the first 45s or albums that you bought?
Probably, I would say something like Electrolyte Orchestra or Blondie,
Okay. Okay. Yes, I was
late 70s, that kind of thing.
right. Yes, I was definitely into ELO early on. And then the move before that with,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
great.
Oh,
And then I got kind of more into like new wave stuff, like, B-52s or Devo or something like that. That would have probably been like the introduction into, and the Police, bands of my time, bands that were happening during my time that weren't, kind of legacy acts or massive acts. They were kind of up and coming.
yes, yes. I remember seeing, I believe it was late 70s, the Police and XTC
Oh,
here
great.
in Dallas. They were on tour together. And speaking of Devo, my friend of mine who's passed, he went to the concert and they were all wearing those yellow outfits
Oh,
with the red.
yeah, Energy Jones, yeah.
Yeah, he brought one home and he would wear it like for Halloween and things like. I remember that very well. Well, how about one of the first live shows or concerts that you attended that you went to?
I mean, well, I know my sister dragged me to, well, my parents and my sister she wanted to see Barry Manilow, and I got in the 70s, and I got dragged along to that in Philadelphia. Um, but probably one of the first shows that I saw that would have been a band that I liked was The Police here in
Okay.
Atlantic City area. It was in Atlantic City at the Convention Center for the Synchronicity Tour. So that was probably like one of the first shows I went to, and that was in high school. That would have been a band that I actually liked.
Right, right, yeah. I've been dragged to a few concerts I didn't really want to go to. Going back, Kenny Rogers was one I remember. Talk about some early musical influences in bands for you.
Yeah, like I said, so after like high school and getting into college, I started getting more into like underground bands and a lot of British stuff. So that in high school I would have been into stuff like, U2 and In Excess and like The Police, and then starting to get into The Cure and Echo and the Bunnymen and bands like that, and then just kind of progressing along that level. But I guess some of the early influences would be Police, Echo and the Bunnymen, Cure, Joy Division, New Order, anything on Creation Records and Factory Records from the late 70s or early 80s. So like I said, Deardarkhead started in 88. So Jesus and Mary Chain, bands like that, Chameleons.
Oh, yes.
So early 80s, late 70s, even mid 80s. Those are kind of the bands that were like for the formative, the things that we would when we eventually started, those would be the bands that we were, influenced by, maybe copying or trying to sound like.
Yeah, yeah. I know another one, Cocteau Twins, for
Oh,
sure. Yeah,
definitely. Yep,
yeah, yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I love all that. Like you mentioned, some of the post-punk that was coming out in the early 80s. And I'm an Anglophile myself, so I definitely understand that and know where your tastes lie with those
Yeah,
kind
prior to Deardarkhead starting, in uh like we started in 88, but like about a year-ish or so before, I had a band called Aslan's Pride. So that was kind of the first band I had.
of.
And
Okay.
Blakely was also in that band. It was real short-lived. We were very U2 sounding, at the time, and we only did a handful of shows and broke up, and then that's when Deardarkhead started, and Blakely came along.
Okay.
From Aslan's Pride into Deardarkhead with me.
Okay. Did you guys record anything with Aslan's Pride?
Yeah, I have some demos floating around that we did on a 4 track, but nothing that was really released. We just used it to get gigs or, give out or whatnot, but it wasn't ever like official release.
Oh, okay. Okay. Did you
Like a
guys?
demo tape.
Oh, right, right. You did play some live shows though.
Yeah, mostly just here in the area, like in the Atlantic City area, like out of Stockton University, and I forget where else we played, but they would have just been around here.
Okay, all right. Well, before talking about Dear Darkhead, what was the music scene around you, uh, developing around you?
Yeah, it South Jersey is at the time was pretty devoid of anything interesting. And I'm being pretty fair here, but I will say what was interesting was there are a lot of punk bands happening, like things that were happening at like fire halls, small shows, and a few people that I would go on to become friends with later had put on some of these shows like at the Elks Club in Atlantic City, and like I said, some of the fire halls in the area, just like a lot of like punk bands from Philly that would come down and play. And there was a band around here called Misfortunes of Virtue, who Mike Amper's brother was in. So our singer's brother was in that band for a while. And there were a lot of different people that went through that band. But yeah, so we kind of came in on the scene when there were like punk bands happening around here, but in
Oh,
a very small way. There was like one club over in like on the island in Margate called Reds, and it used to be called the Ivory. It was right across from this landmark called Lucy the Elephant. It's like a giant building shaped like an elephant that you can go inside, and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
right by the ocean. But right across the street was the Ivory, and a lot of cool bands like REM had played there, and a lot of up and coming bands were coming through there. And then it became Reds, and that's one of the first places we started to play. So that was like the only punk new wave rock club in the area. Everything else would just be cover bands or just kind of, run-of-the-mill rock bands with
Right,
very
right.
few places to play. There were only like a handful of, spots. So it wasn't like
Okay.
a thriving scene.
It wasn't thriving. Yeah, it wasn't thriving. Yeah, speaking of that time period too, the bongos. Were you into the bongos
I know I
from
never got into those.
from New York? Well, it had that kind of ringing, jangly guitar sound. Richard Barone was the lead singer, or is the lead singer. They're still together, but uh, it was more had leanings more towards that UK sound. That's what attracted me when you mentioned REM as well. Yeah. Well, how talk us through how Darkhead formed, how you guys got together.
So after As and Pride broke up, um, I definitely wanted to do something that was more along the lines of like the bands we had talked about, like The Cure, Echo and the Bunnymen, Joy Division, Bauhaus, things like that, like Cocteau Twins, Jesus Mary Chain. We wanted to get a more like wall sound kind of sonic kind of vibe, atmospheric vibe going. Um, so Kurt Douglas, who was a friend of mine in high school, was starting to play guitar, and he came on board. He was one of my best friends in during high school, and then Josh, we were in going into college at this point, and we met Josh at Josh Miner at Stockton, and then he came on board on bass. So that was the first lineup, and then we recorded a demo called "Greetings from the Infernal Village." It was
Right,
yeah.
right.
So
On
that was
cassette.
something we
Yeah.
recorded here at my house on a
Yeah.
4 track.
Okay. Okay. All right. Oh wow. Okay. Well, that was nice. So you guys were comfortable enough to do that there, record
Yeah,
that.
I mean, we had some friends help us. I was getting kind of good on like tracking things myself and learning how. And I'm a drummer, but I started learning how to play guitar. And by learning, I mean just bashing it out and recording stuff on my 4 track and kind of learning. I mean, I'm by no means a guitar player, but I can get by enough to write.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and that's how I would write songs on the 4 track. Kind of that's exactly how I started. Before that, I wouldn't have been able to really play anything and communicate it to a guitar player. So once I could start recording it, I could start experimenting and using effects pedals and things like that to kind of layer sounds. But yeah, that was the first lineup, and I worked at a record store, and Blakely also worked at this local record store with me called Sound Odyssey that was in Pleasantville, like not too far away, and we used to sell the demo tape there in the store.
Okay. Okay. Did you guys get a lot of imports in the record store?
Yeah, it was a really cool record store. It was a small chain. There were about maybe 7 of them, I believe. It was called Sound Odyssey. There was one in Philly and one in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and the one in Pleasantville, and then there was one in Ocean City, Maryland. But we had vinyl. We actually had guitars and like effects pedals, 45s, t-shirts. We start when CDs started coming out. We had those tapes, the whole imports. It was a great record store, especially for this area. Like we could get some pretty obscure stuff in,
Right.
and everybody that worked there was a real cast of characters. So it was a fun place. Also, one of the kind of a seminal thing for me in terms of music knowledge and working with people who knew more and discovering things. That you couldn't just go on the internet and find out about today. I was reading religiously reading Melody Maker, NME, Sounds, all the alternative papers.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that was a different time. I talked to several musicians, on this channel about, I miss the days of going to the record store, and the
Yeah,
anticipation going there. And I knew a guy, there was a couple of import stores that we had, and one guy I got to know real well, and he would let me play, or he would play albums or songs before I'd buy it, and he was really nice about that. But then the other one had the listening stations. So,
yeah.
yeah, I
We didn't have
picked
the
up.
stations initially at the store, but it was a very like a community-based store. Like it was the record shop. That's where everybody went to get stuff. It was a hub of
Yeah.
music lovers, and if that store was there today still, I would probably at least work one day just
One
for
day.
the discount and
The
the
discount you
fun.
get. Right, right. Yeah, that's a bygone era. I think bringing back the vinyl for a lot of people that didn't experience it the first time, it's kind of nice, but
Absolutely.
opening the package, reading the liner notes, the whole schmeal. But I miss that, the anticipation going to the store and then going home and being excited about it,
Oh
And
yeah, like I was going there so much before I
yeah,
even got a job there.
yeah,
And it was kind of like, if you bought something, you had limited money and you when you
yeah,
bought it, you just listened to it over and over and over and over till you knew that record, like the
yes,
back of your hand, and it meant a lot. And now I think things have become a little more, I'm not saying for everybody, it's just easy to like put stuff endlessly streaming and you don't care about it as much.
right, right. We're definitely more spoiled these days too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the other side of that is you can be anywhere and have access to really great stuff. And
Yes, yes,
but
at
each
your
one has its pluses.
yes, at your fingertips. Yeah, there is the plus side definitely of technology. Well, talk about some of the live shows early on. Let me ask you, when did you play in support of Psychedelic Furs?
That was, I believe, in 2012. I think that's right.
Oh, more
That was here in
recent.
Atlantic City,
Okay.
and I think that's correct. I'm the worst at dates, but that was the House of Blues in Atlantic City. Yeah, we were the opener, and that was a band that we were influenced by.
Oh, right, right.
And in
Yes.
fact, interestingly, some of our friends, their brother, Joe McGinty, was in the Psychedelic Furs as the keyboard player before they broke up initially.
Yeah.
And he's from the town over, and he's a little bit older and than his younger brothers who we're friends with. And he wasn't with them when they played in Atlantic City, because that was after they reformed. But he kind of is back and forth between New York and down here. And we did some recording a little while ago that we haven't released yet, and we actually had Joe play on a track for us.
Oh, is that
Yeah, because we thought it'd be really cool because he's a really great keyboard player, and we were big First fans, and he's also played with a lot of other people, but we thought it'd be fitting to have him, do a little backing track on one of our songs.
oh, that would be nice. Had you guys ever considered pulling in a keyboard player as a full-time member?
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, Mike actually played keyboards, or Mike Amper. He started actually just as the vocalist, and he was playing keyboards in the beginning, but we didn't really use it a lot. And then Kurt was like, "Hey," this is when Mike joined the band after. So basically, what happened was Blakely shifted over to bass, Josh left, and Mike came in as the singer. And then eventually, Kurt was like, "We need another guitar. Mike, play guitar." And so Mike just picked up guitar, and he was very versatile like that. And then later on, he went on to bass and singing, so he could just kind of roll with the punches.
All right. Well, talk about some of the other memorable live shows for the band.
We played like early on, we played in CBGB's,
Oh, did
which was
you?
kind of fun.
Yeah.
It was like probably early on, it probably would have been around 92, maybe 91 or 92. And we played like in the summer, and there were like six bands on like a Wednesday night or something like that. I have a nice recording off the board. That was kind of fun one. Yeah, we used to play a lot anywhere from like New York to Delaware to Philly and New York. Pretty much that's the air and Atlantic City, all those areas. We've kind of stuck to the East Coast and the Mid-Atlantic range.
Yeah, yeah. Well, interesting, talking about one of your or one or a couple of your releases recorded in Philadelphia or in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, a couple. So we had friends we were friends with this band called Suddenly Tammy. They were on Spin Art, which was a small indie label, but they eventually got signed to Warner Brothers. Um, and they were like a three-piece, piano and Beth played piano. Beth Sorrentino, she played piano and sang. Her brother Jay Sorrentino is the drummer, and then Ken Heitmuller, who is the bass player. So they're a three-piece. And Kenny had a little studio in his basement in Lancaster at his parents' house. It was called the Cat Box, and they recorded some really cool stuff there. They recorded the Lilies. They were, a pretty big shoegaze
Yeah.
band at the time, and they recorded us there. And then eventually they moved it to York, like the town over, into this big church that used to be. Beth had been dating the singer from Live,
All
and
right.
Live had bought a church that was like a decommissioned church, and they were using it as a rehearsal space, but it was like massive. So they sold it to Kenny and Jay as a studio,
Ah,
and that's where we did Unlock the Vows of Feeling, the full length album.
okay, yeah.
We were a trio at that point, but um, yeah, it is a great space. So yeah, we would go up there to record because those guys, really did a good job. They had good gear and they kind of got where our sound was coming from. Um, yeah, so that was kind of the scene back then, and that had been the place that we like to record because prior to that, all the professional recordings that we did outside of my 4 track were done like in a local studios here, like nearby my house. And they were good for starting out for a new band, but they weren't like, they
Yeah,
didn't really get our sound or where we were going.
they weren't ideal. Yeah, yeah. You mentioned the church. Great acoustics in most cathedrals and churches, anyway. Get
Yeah, yeah.
so it's a nice place to record.
It had
Yeah,
a working pipe organ in it, and we used there's at the end of the record, we mic'd the bell tower, and we were ringing the bell, and that's on the fade out track.
yes, I've heard that. Yes, yes. Well, let me ask you. You mentioning Pennsylvania too. I don't know what it is, and up in your area too. Well, you guys are pretty close in that
Yeah, I'm
whole
about an
area.
hour away
Yeah.
from Philly.
There's
I mean,
there's something that must be in the water there because a couple of Pennsylvania bands that I've followed and really have always been into for quite some time. Ocean Blue
right,
and Riverside.
right. Yeah, I mean, I've seen Ocean Blue. They opened up for My Bloody Valentine
Yeah.
for their Isn't Anything tour at the TLA, and I saw them during that. And I've never saw Riverside, but we did a show at a Sam Adams brewery and with some of the guys in a spin-off band. They were in Riverside, and the name of the band I cannot remember, but it was some of the guys who were in Riverside.
Okay, yeah. Both of those bands sound very English,
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
they definitely Anglophiles in those bands, but yeah, they have that sound, like jangly guitar sound as well. Well, uh, let me ask you this, over the term of the band, you guys being together, has the songwriting process changed over time, or has it stayed basically the same?
Uh, that's an interesting question. I mean, we've always had a lot of different people in the band who have written. I mean, pretty much, we've always been encouraging of whoever's got a good idea, present it. I'd say that it depends who's in the band. Like I would say in the beginning, everybody wrote except for maybe Josh didn't. He just played bass more or less. But pretty much everybody contributes or will work on something together, even if somebody has the basic idea. I mean, sometimes I'll bring an entire song completed and other times I'll just have a couple of parts and other people will finish it. Sometimes we'll jam on stuff. Other members like Kevin will bring an entirely completed song and maybe I'll just, add the drum parts or we'll arrange it together. So we kind of run the gamut of, we let people do what they want to do. If they have an idea, that's great, and we'll explore it. And if not, some people are just really, content to just play live and put their part down. Um, it's really whoever has a good idea. So it's varied over the years, and like I said, we've been lucky to have a lot of strong songwriters. Right now, it's just pretty much me and Kevin. We do most of the songwriting in one form or another. But like I said, we're always open to a good idea, and it really just boils down to the democracy kind of thing. If,
Oh,
if,
I
if
was
people
gonna,
don't like it, we try. At least that's what we try. That's what we shoot for.
right, right. I was gonna mention that democracy. I like that in a band. Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
I mean, really, we just kind of work on things, and we try to if you listen to the demo and you go back to the finished version, you can see that just by other people having their input, even if it's in a small way, it makes it sound more like a band, and it evolves from where it started.
Right, right. Very, very well said. Well, the first time I heard Dear Darkhead was the track Never Coming Down off of that various artist collection Popular World, and I have a copy right here on Sky Blue Records. There it is.
Yeah, interestingly, the fellow that put that out, Tim Heinley, he used to live literally a block up from where I'm at right now. He had a fanzine, actually still has a fanzine, does it pretty much online these days, but it was called
Yeah,
Dagger fanzine. And actually he wrote some of the liner notes in that Oceanside compilation that Captured Tracks put out.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, that was I believe the first record he put out. But he started a fanzine basically a couple years before Deardarkhead started. And in fact, he reviewed our first demo,
did he?
and
Okay.
maybe one of my favorite all-time reviews. And it said something like, "Hey, if you're into like post-punk and you like The Cure and Echo and the Bunnymen and Joy Division or Bauhaus, you'd probably be into these guys. I mean, don't get me wrong, their singers not going to make you forget any of those singers, but you know, I kind of have to give this a good review because Rob grew up right down the block from me, and he seen me like fall off my bike when I was a kid and cry. And I'm like, maybe my favorite all-time review."
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I talked to a guy recently, and he said, playing live, hundreds or thousands of people, no big deal. But he said if you play to your friends, you're all, yeah, because of those
Yeah,
kind of things, the memories.
scrutinized.
Yes,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, Tim's great and like super knowledgeable about indie rock, and that was a
Yeah.
really cool comp, and it was nice of him to include us on it. That track was also on our album "Unlock the Vows of Feeling."
Yes.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because at this time, I was really getting into indie pop, and I was buying a lot of these various artists, these compilations, for bands that I didn't, wasn't aware of, and that's how I picked up on, got interested in a lot of these bands. Off of here, Saint Christopher
Oh,
is,
right. Yeah.
yeah, is one that I've followed up on and gotten some material from. Happy Dead Men. Uh, the I interviewed Magnus Carlsen, written interview, about a year or so ago. They're
Wow.
Swedish band, and then Brideshead, the German band.
Hmm.
Another one I talked to Mark Cohen on my channel.
Yeah, I
So
was looking at your when you initially reached out to me. I saw a lot of a lot of interesting array of bands.
yeah, yeah, I like to do a variety. Well, my tastes are pretty varied too. So yeah, that's so interesting that a lot of those on there that I would follow up on and research and get into. Well, I'll tell you my picks off of the releases, the albums, the singles, and you tell
Sure.
me if you can the history behind the song or the inspiration or any kind of stories that you may have.
Sure. I'll try my best.
Okay, from 91's Spiral Down and Vibrate. I enjoy Lighthouse off of that
Like, okay, that one, our guitar player Kurt wrote.
one.
I couldn't tell you a lot about it. I know he always wished we had played it slower, I think. I mean, at the time, we were really into like the Primitives. I don't know if you remember that
Oh,
band, the
yes,
British band,
yes,
the Primitives.
yes.
So you can probably maybe see a little, like,
Right,
I wouldn't say like it sounds exactly like a primitive song, but like that influence. We were into a lot of bands that sound like that.
right.
And I would say that was kind of like a formative period where hadn't kind of quite gone as like heavy. We were kind of transitioning our sound a bit right there, I think. So we were into a lot of like guitar driven bands like House of Love and like
Oh, yeah,
Jesus Mary Chain, and bands that weren't, I mean, obviously they were like heavy on the distortion, but like some of the dreamier stuff. I mean, basically when we had started Deardarkhead, the idea was to sound kind of like the Cocteau Twins meets like the Jesus and Mary Chain, and with some more guitar driven influences. Like we also like stuff like the Mighty Lemon Drops and Echo and the Bunnymen. So bands that were still kind of, they weren't the full on wall of atmospheric sound, but they still had a lot of like kind of atmosphere, but they were still very guitar driven, like
guitar.
neo psychedelic a little bit, you might say.
Yeah.
So Kurt had written that one, and I couldn't really tell you that much about the lyrics. I mean, he was kind of obsessed with this girl at the time, so I would probably have to say that's probably what it was about. But
Right, right. Well, interesting. You mentioned the Primitives. They had that hit Crash, right?
right, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And then you mentioned earlier Blondie. So you
yeah.
hear that influence,
Absolutely.
yeah,
In
in the
fact,
Primitives.
we saw the Primitives like for their first US tour, and it was me, Kurt, and Blakely were at the show.
Okay, okay. All right. Well, moving on to 1992's Melt Away Too Soon. Surfs Up. Now
That's
that has that Robin Guthrie-esque guitar. I hear.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely had. That's another Kurt song.
Okay.
Kurt also wrote that one.
Okay.
Yeah, it definitely has
Yeah.
a Jesus and Mary Chain kind of vibe.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
All the heavy feedback in it.
Yeah.
That one's definitely about that girl that I was mentioning.
Okay.
That he was obsessed. Kind of ruined his life for a little while. Yeah,
Oh.
but we live by, we're 20 minutes from the ocean.
Oh, respect.
We're really close to Ocean City than Atlantic City. So at that time we were using a lot of like um ocean imagery in the
Oh,
songs, I
yeah.
think. And
Yeah.
it's always been kind of an influence for us. It's kind of like the Atlantic Ocean's, in the winter, it's very dark and brooding, and it's kind of like England in that way, I think. And I think it's very atmospheric, and so we kind of played off of that, I think.
Yeah.
And I remember like somebody one time, it might have been for that even tune, they wrote something like, "These guys sound like, the Doom and Gloom Beach Boys or something." They mentioned it, and
Surfs
they
Up.
kind of picked up that there were a lot of oceanic kind of references in the lyrics.
Yes, and then the titles,
Yeah.
Oceanside. Oceanside's another one. Yeah, that I like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you shared the commonality. You shared the Atlantic Ocean with UK, so it would be kind of brooding and dark, and especially in the wintertime.
Yeah, absolutely. And we spent a lot of, I mean, especially when that formative years when you can't go to bars really. And, so we'd be just bumming around like Ocean City, and like a lot of our earlier promo shots are on the beach and things like that. I mean, or if, like we were probably just trying to replicate, Echo and the Bunnymen's Heaven Up Here, where they're standing on the beach, against like the dark sea, like that kind of thing. We all had the long coats and the big hair, you know.
I went through that phase
Yeah.
myself. Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
I mean, I'm
Uh,
still wearing a lot of black. The hair's a little shorter, but I still have the long coats.
yeah, yeah. I used to go to clubs and I had the long coat and everything. Well, from 1993's Ultraviolet, and that's interesting. That's another title of another album from another band. I can't think of it. Ultraviolet.
You two
Uh,
had a song called Ultraviolet later on, but
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Oh, I
I think
can't
you
think.
also had a
It was somebody else. I can't think of it now. Anyway, Roller Coaster. That great guitar on that track.
yeah, that's okay. So on that record, that's when Kevin had joined us. Blakely had written that tune. Blakely Parent, our who was playing bass at the time. So that's a Blakely tune. Again, I couldn't give you. I can tell you this. We kind of used to joke that a lot of our favorite bands had songs called Roller Coaster. Like
Okay. Okay.
Echo and the Bunnymen had a song called Roller Coaster. Jesus and Mary Chain had a tune called Roller Coaster. So I think Blakely kind of jokingly thought, let's just
Yeah.
have a song called
Mighty
Roller
Lemon
Coaster.
Mighty Lemon Drops too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you much about the writing of it on his part, but I definitely remember that.
Yeah. I know what I was now it came back to me. Heaven Up Here. Yeah, I think that's my favorite Echo album.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's definitely one of their best.
all my colors. That I love the density. I love that the mood on that track. When the
Yeah,
echo.
we went to see him a lot in the early days, like when they had the original, like up to the, I guess, the fifth album, when it was still the original lineup, and then after that their drummer Pete DeFreitas died.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I've seen him a lot of times afterwards, but in terms of the original lineup and the time we were starting, that was certainly a big influence on me and Kurt.
yeah, yeah. And Psychedelic Furs mentioning them playing with them earlier. They're touring now, or
Yeah.
they were touring with the Chameleons. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I was up in Brooklyn last weekend to see a show, and at the Brooklyn Paramount, and I saw that they were coming there.
yeah,
So
yeah. So I think I've kind of gotten burned out on seeing Mark Burgess and Chameleons. I've seen him 5 times now. So
I've seen
it's
them a
like
lot. I saw them a couple years ago in Philly. They're supposed to come with some of the, original members, but it was just Mark, I think, by the time. I think it was
yeah,
just Mark. But I did see them when they got back together, when they did a reunion tour, and I saw them in Brooklyn.
yeah.
Um, a while back, like in the 2000 early 2000s, and believe me, man, I never thought I would get to see the Chameleons.
Oh,
Pretty much
hey,
everybody in the band's been a
hey,
massive Chameleons
I'm
fan.
with you. I'm with you here. That's my top favorite alternative band is the
Oh yeah, they're
Chameleons.
great.
Yeah, yeah. Just
We when we played, there was a bar in Philly that we used to play called Revival, and they used to have some really good bands back in the day played. Then the first time we played there, we were like, "Whoa, the Chameleons played here." We were like, "Yeah, this is
yeah.
cool."
But I remember when I first heard there was a radio station here. A guy played alternative music on Sundays, and he played a track off of Script of the Bridge, and I was like blown away. It was like I hadn't heard anything like that. Now
Oh yeah,
the edge, the guitar, that was different. That was totally different. But this was even going in another direction. I mean, the chiming guitar, the shimmering
yeah.
guitar, and just that treated guitar that they had, the echo on it,
Well, the
and
way they worked, they had two guitars, so
yeah,
that interplay between both of them, where you two were
yeah,
kind of they only
yeah.
had one. You know.
Right, right, right. And the songwriting and the lyrics, everything, just a total package for me.
Yeah,
But
they're very similar. I mean, there are definitely a lot of commonality. The drum sounds,
yeah, yeah,
that big 80s kind of bombastic anthemic,
yeah,
real
right.
passionate, kind of almost political,
Yeah,
humanistic kind of vibe in the lyrics.
right, right. Yeah, and one more thing on you mentioned you didn't ever think you'd see them. I didn't either. So me and my brother went in 2000, so it's 25 years ago, went to Manchester. We flew over there because they had a
Wow.
reunion. That was like going to be their last concert as the original band. Because we didn't think they'd ever come to Dallas. And then
Yeah,
since that time, four more times, I've seen them. So, but at the time, we didn't think they would. So we went there and saw them. It was a wonderful concert.
I'm
Yeah.
sure. Right in the hometown there in Manchester. Yeah, that's amazing. I've never been to England, believe it or not. I've been to Scotland and Ireland, but I've yet to go to England, so that's definitely on the list.
I'll trade you.
Yeah,
I prefer to go to Scotland. I've always said I need to go there. My
Edinburgh, I was
root,
just there last year, was fantastic.
really, my roots on my dad's side, Scottish. So I've
Same.
been telling everyone I want to go there. I need to go there. So one of these days. But yeah, imagine beautiful country too when you get up
Beautiful.
in the Highlands and that kind of.
Absolutely.
Well, also off of Ultraviolet, June 28th.
Okay.
And sorry to keep referencing the Cocteau Twins, but I
Oh
think
yeah.
I think this one, if I didn't know who it was and I just heard the song, I could hear that on a Cocteau album. I could hear that on a Cocteau Twins album.
Yeah, so I can tell you a little bit about this one. This one we kind of wrote together, like it was a very much a group effort. I think Kurt had a couple of chords, and we started playing around. Then Mike was just kind of like, "Oh, we could go here or there," and we just kind of put it together. And we all just kind of that was a group effort in terms of just you know plugging away and getting it right. And then I think Kurt might have written the initial parts, just get it started, and then we kind of took it, to completion altogether. And I just remember us sitting around going, "What should we call it?" And Kurt goes, "What day is it?" And I go, "It's June 28th," and he goes, "There you go." So that's how. There's nothing special about it other than that's the day we finished it.
Oh, I thought that it might have been a nod to something special or anniversary or something.
No,
Well,
though, but interestingly, and it kind of made me laugh. A couple years ago, I was watching Rosemary's Baby because I had never seen it, and I thought I should, I know about the film, but I should check it out. And the delivery due date for the baby was June 28th, and I practically fell out of my chair laughing because I was like, that's just too much, like.
is that right? Is that right? If you had seen the movie before,
Yeah, it would have been funnier, but yeah, it was
that's
just
okay.
yeah, it's just the day we named the tune. So, but we did have a history of doing. I think there's almost an instrumental on everything we've ever put out. I think that's right. I could be wrong on one of them, but we used to do a lot of instrumentals. In fact, a lot of the ideas came from in the early days. We would write something just for a show, like just a little riff. It wouldn't be a whole song. It would just be like, hey, let's just jam on this for a little bit, before we go into a song. And
Right.
sometimes those would become songs, but often they would just be lost. We would never do them again. It would
Yeah.
just be like a little kind of instrumental opener to kind of set the mood.
Yeah.
We used to use a lot of we used to project this like slideshow with like all these really cool psychedelic lights on us when we were playing. So it'd
Yeah.
just be kind of a way to set the tone of the show because we're not like a jumping around on stage, hence why we got lumped in with the shoegaze. We're just kind of standing
Yeah.
there doing our thing.
Yeah.
And it looked cool and it was just a nice way to set the tone of the show.
Yeah.
But like I said, a lot of them ended up becoming songs that we would develop into something. But that one, like I said, was just more of us jamming around the studio and it turned into that. And yeah, now we kind of jokingly say every year when June 28th comes up that it's International Deardarkhead Day.
Right. There you go. Make it official. There you
That's
go.
one of my we were I wish we could still do that. We've been kind of talking about maybe we can do it again live, but we kind of needs two guitars, but we were still thinking it might be fun to bring a song that was an instrumental back into the set. We've been learning some older tunes that had vocals and doing them instrumentally just to kind of pad our set out currently. Because we thought it'd be nice to have a wide array of stuff from different eras.
Right, right, right. Yeah, and there is an art to a live. What am I trying to say? Your the songs that you play live,
Absolutely.
because you have to interject enough of the familiar ones, and if you have a new album out, get those in there too, and
Yeah.
keep the fans' interest. Yeah,
I
keep
mean,
that.
we used to play a bar that was like maybe not even 10 minutes from my house. And we would just get a gig there and we'd play this bar called the Pearl. It was in Summers Point. And it was like a Chinese kind of slash tiki bar package goods place, like on your way to Ocean City. And we would play there by ourselves and we'd play three 10-song sets. We'd do 30 songs of original
Right.
music, which is not something you would see in this area. Like you'd go see a cover band and they might play like that much,
Yeah,
but they might play all night, but you wouldn't see like, I mean, that's like going to a stadium and seeing The Cure or something where they play like 30 tunes. Um,
right, right.
so we would do that regularly and it would just be us for the most part. So we got pretty rehearsed where we had a large amount of songs to draw from of original stuff.
Yeah, yeah. You had honed your chops, definitely. Well, yeah. The other track off of Ultraviolet may be one of my top Dear Darkhead songs, Little Marinera.
Oh, that's a great tune. So I can tell you a little bit about that. That's a Blakely song. So we used to do it. It's about this girl that he was seeing at the time. A lot of our songs were naturally, especially when we had lyrics. I mean, now it's a little more vague about what the song's about since they're instrumental. But at the time, he was seeing this girl who was Italian.
Yeah.
Italian heritage, hence the name. Um, and we did it out, but when we started doing it, it sounded a lot more like Dinosaur Jr. or something. We did it like about way faster, and it was totally distorted. Like I have recordings of it, and it was fun to play, but it was kind of like not where we were going sonically. And one night I was at rehearsal, I'm like, what if we just like slowed it down, like really slowed it down, like Cocteau Twins, big washes of guitar. And it just then it clicked. And because the lyrics are great, Blakely was a really great lyricist. He had a lot of really interesting ideas. Um, Great tune. It was fun to play the way we were doing it before, but I think it really kind of it started to sing, the pace of it, the texture of the guitars. It just really, really popped and kind of wish we
Yeah,
could still do that one. We definitely need a vocalist though, I think.
yeah, for that one, yeah. Well, I'm glad you did slow it down because it definitely works on that track.
Yeah, it's a beautiful track.
The tempo and yeah, and all as well. Yeah. On to 98's Unlock the Valves of Feeling. My picks, Spaceman. I like that one.
Okay, that one I kind of wrote the basis off of. That's kind of interesting because the original title of it was Spaceman 2 because when Kurt was in the band, we had a song called Spaceman, and when he quit, we stopped doing it. So basically, I wrote another tune that was kind of like a rip off of it. It's
Okay.
at least, I mean, it had a lot of the same hallmarks. Uh, the same kind of guitar sounds, the kind of driving aspect of it. So you know, I it's not like we didn't stop doing, we still did some of the songs after some of the members left, but we wanted to kind of move on and do new material. So I did something that was like my influence off of that song. So that's
Yeah.
kind of the vibe for it.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this too. Looking back on the tracks, a lot of them, since the late 80s, early 90s, you ever look back and say, I'd like to redo that one. Maybe I could tweak it a little bit different, or do you say
Yeah,
it was of its time, so we kind of leave it alone?
I think, I mean, we're kind of interested in moving on and doing what we have now to reflect where we're at. So we haven't really thought about. I always joke that I would love to re-record our the demo tape, "Greetings from the Infernal Village." I always thought it would be kind of cool to redo that, but with the way we sound now, and kind of and like call it "Return to the Infernal Village." And
Oh, there you go. There
the
you go.
reason that the reason that's called "Greetings from the Infernal Village," we had a friend of ours from Philadelphia who used to hang out in Ocean City, like real punk rock, and he gave me a Christmas card one year, and it looked like, like a an old fashioned, Christmas card with like a little scene, like a little village, people skiing and the snow and like a little sleigh going by with a horse. And he took like a magic marker and he made it look like the whole thing was on fire. And then it said, and when it opened up, it said "Season greetings from the Infernal Village." And that's why we called it that.
Oh, okay. I meant to ask you about that.
Yeah,
Where
it's
that
kind of a
came
bizarre title, but we thought it was kind of funny at the time, so we called it like, just "Greetings from the Infernal Village."
from.
So it doesn't, yeah, but there was a Christmas aspect to it. So I somewhere in the house I have the card still.
Oh, you still
Uh,
have
but
it.
yeah, so yeah, but I thought it'd be
Oh,
funny to kind of do it like it'd be interesting to do the stuff that
return.
was our formative
Yeah.
years, kind of. But we're just so busy with working on the stuff they're doing now that I doubt we'll ever get around to that. But it would be a fun idea.
Okay. Okay. Are there still tracks in the vault that were never released?
No, I mean pretty much everything that we did. I mean, if we didn't record, we do have some stuff. So when before Mike Amper left, he was starting to record a record. On he bought some gear and he was trying to record some stuff. We were just going to do it ourselves, but we could never really kind of. It was we'd recorded like a 10 song album, so none of that stuff got released. And it just wasn't up to snuff. We tried to like salvage it before our new bass player, Kevin McCauley, joined the band. But we just weren't really happy with the way the drums sounded. And our whole thing has always been like, well, whatever we put out, we want it to be better than the last thing that we did sonically or, or songwriting. In any way we can push it forward to go forward. And we didn't feel it was up to snuff. So once we got Kevin McCauley came on board as the bass player after Mike left, we just started writing new material. And that's basically what the Strange Weather EP was. So
Okay, I'll get to that in a
yeah, yeah.
second. Yeah, that's yeah, very interesting. I like to hear that. Well, of course, Never Coming Down.
Yeah,
Uh,
that was one I kind of wrote. I guess that was kind of like it was definitely I was going for a kind of a surfy vibe on it. We used to do that one a lot. We did it as an instrumental after Mike left too for a while, and then we just stopped doing it and just kind of focused on songs that were entirely instrumental. But we needed some material at the beginning to once Kevin McCauley joined us, so we were doing some songs that were vocal oriented as instrumentals. But yeah, I just thought that had a bit of a maybe like a bit of a Pixies vibe or something, maybe like something off of I can't think what album, but
that's interesting.
uh yeah, something along that line, like they're a bossa nova, I guess that album.
Okay. Yeah, I can hear that
Yeah,
kind of rhythm going along. Yeah, yeah, I can bounce kind of a bouncy. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, Through Closed Eyes is another track I like.
That's a Kevin track. Kevin kind of came up with that one. Um, yeah, that was a fun one to play. It's real long. Kevin tends to write a lot of the longer tunes, real atmospheric and dreamy. Yeah, that one was cool because we used some chimes on it in the recording, which we just had in the studio. I don't actually have those, but I should buy some but it'd be fun. We were doing it.
Hey,
Sometimes we would do it instrumentally. It could be done instrumentally. We could revive that one. That's a
yeah,
good one.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's enough variety in your songs too. No two songs sound alike, I don't think.
Yeah, I think
And
we
so,
have. our modes, you know what I mean? Like we have stuff that's kind of we'll do stuff that's real short and poppy with a lot of hooks, and then we'll do like more long, expansive, like dreamier, atmospheric tracks, and then we'll have some harder ones. I mean that album, I think, out of all our stuff, I think that Unlock the Vows of Feeling has a very, we envision that as a listen, not like in the past we'd always done like this is a song, this is a song, this is a song, this is a song. That was like this is a listen. Like the songs fade into each other. There's a real similar atmosphere, I think, from song to song. That album has a certain sound to it,
Yeah.
um, and I think we kind of really wanted to be envisioned as a complete piece as opposed to just individual songs.
Right, right. Oh, well said. Yeah. We'll talk about the cover. I didn't ask you about the cover of that.
Yeah, so that was shot at there's a prison in Philadelphia called Eastern State Penitentiary. It's a famous prison. Like it's not too far from like the Philadelphia Art Museum, and you can go take tours of it. And they have like a Christmas Halloween. They do like these horror, ghost tours, like things that you can go through.
Yeah,
They do like a Bastille Day thing there. But a friend of mine who's a photographer who shot that. His name's Jason Messer. He did a photo shoot with us in there in the prison. He's like, "Hey, I'd like to take some shots of you guys." So he took a
yeah,
bunch of shots, and we had a lot of shots from the prison, and we just thought that would really work well with the title. Um, and we use that. It's got a real atmospheric kind of vibe, real empty. The
yeah.
cover
It
kind of
does.
reminds me like it's really like it's pretty haunting when they give you a whole history tour, like what it was like and like famous people who lived there. And it's definitely worth visiting if you haven't interested in like history. It also kind of reminds me of like just the sort of empty, it reminds me of like Three Imaginary Boys by The Cure, where you just have like,
Oh,
you
right.
have these like just objects, it's like the vacuum cleaner, the lamp. In that there's like a whatever, what objects that are in the cell. It's just real empty and kind of like
Yeah,
weirdly abstract.
yes. It's almost like to me that I guess the color it almost looks like a Egyptian tomb or something like that.
Yeah, I put like a sepia color on it and just like kind of like brown and like
Yeah, yeah.
there's a Morse code and Braille like fonts on the album if you looked at that.
Right.
So we were just trying to go for like a real a kind of atmospheric vibe that kind of reflected where the songs were.
Yeah. I think it works real well with the music.
Yeah, we're
Um,
not one for putting like we're definitely, we've never like we don't put ourselves on the album covers. We always have something that's a little bit more abstract and a little more that reflects the music, but not in
yeah,
a concrete way, I
right.
think.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. It's a sense of mystery too. Well,
Yeah, we've always
through
upplayed the visuals and
yeah,
downplayed us. You know what I mean?
yes. Right, right. Well, another track. This is another top pick for me over all your material. Alone with You.
Okay, that was a Mike song. Yeah, Mike wrote that one. That's a great tune. Um, yeah, I don't know how much to say about it. I think it was about his wife that he was with at the time. They lived in Philly, and they're divorced now, but unfortunately, uh, Mike was a really good singer and songwriter. He had a lot more um, theory behind him. He was very good at fit. Like if I would write a song that had two or three parts, he was great at like just putting that middle bridge in there or ending or intro. He just very thought that way. Very good at finishing our sentences. And yeah, I think that's one he brought in completely done. Um, it has a it has a bit of a if you're familiar with the association, they have a song called Never My Love.
Oh yeah, it's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah, that has a bit of also a bit like Pixies, Here Comes Your Man.
Uh-huh.
Um that like that
Yeah.
tune. Very similar, but we used to do a weird version of it too, where I played maracas and it was like real slow. We did a much slower version. It was kind of like an alternate version that we would do
Yeah.
once in a while. Yeah.
Wow, I would like to hear that.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
never recorded. It was like I would actually use the maracas on the drums, like
Oh, did you? Did you?
so. Yeah, it was just like a weird. It was like an alternate. We would just do it once in a while. We didn't do it a lot, but it was, yeah, good tune.
Yeah. And then another, sorry for all the Cocteau Twins, the references, but
No,
Sleep.
we're huge fans. I mean,
Sleep. Yeah.
that's a song that Kevin came up with. Yeah, that's a great tune. It was also on a compilation called Splash with Many a Speck, which was on this record label out on the West Coast called Dewdrops, and that was the vibe. They were like a big It was a double CD, and it had all these like real dreamy American bands on it for the most part. And there was a Cocteau Twins track on it. So that was a great tune. Yeah, definitely very Cocteau Twinsy, very dramatic. With the very like kind of slower kind of, or like quieter parts, and then the very like loud.
Yeah.
Kind of go to dynamics.
Right, right. Well, yeah. Did you happen to see? You're a 4AD fan, I'm sure.
Absolutely,
But
yeah.
did you? My recent interview with Peter Ulrich, Dead Can Dance.
No, I haven't seen that one yet. No,
Yeah,
I'll have to check that out.
you'll have to check.
I have had tickets to see Dead Can Dance, and then every time I had tickets, they canceled the tour.
Yeah,
So I'm kind of at the point where I think I might not ever get a chance to see them. But if
they
they come
do.
back, I doubt they will at this point, but I would love to have seen them.
Yeah, I
Because
was
they've had
what?
a very interesting career. I mean, they definitely went very world music there,
Yes,
but
yes,
they started out much more rock, experimental, kind of gothy, or
yes,
at least atmospheric. Brendan Perry and Lisa Gerard both have fantastic voices, and
yeah,
yeah,
yes.
very dramatic stuff.
Yes, he joked. The interview, if you do watch it, get some popcorn, pop you some popcorn, and kick back because it's almost 2 hours.
Oh wow.
So, or watch
Yeah.
it in a couple of sections. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but anyway, Sleep, that's a great track. And
yeah,
again, wouldn't mind bringing that one back if we had a vocalist.
yeah, yeah. But real quickly on that, he said, "Sorry, I rambled too much about the 2 hours." I said, "No, I had more questions for him than I think anybody I've talked to because I'm such a huge Dead Can Dance fan,
Oh, that's
and plus
fantastic.
I rambled more than he did." So anyway, but yeah, Sleep, and then another one off of here, another top track I have to say, Home, beautiful track.
Yep.
Um, the only thing, and this is, I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but on the vocals, a little weak when he sings, "Can you hear me?" A little. Have you heard that, or you know what I'm talking about? That
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that part. Okay. I think the rest of his vocals on that song are, spot on. Great.
Yeah,
But
that's a Mike tune.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, just
Yeah.
that may knock it a couple of pegs
Mike,
down. Just
yeah, Mike always felt like if he had, I mean, granted, when we were in the studio, he was probably we did that like in a week. We didn't have we paid for it ourselves, so we didn't have like a big budget, so we were on a pretty tight timeline. Um, and we were like pretty much in the studio all day when that was the one we recorded in York, the church box. Um, It was really hot. It was during the summer. And Mike always said, like, at least for live, he felt like if he could just been the singer or just been the bass player, he would have been better at each. Now
oh,
live,
okay,
we were, he had to do both, but in the studio, we're obviously tracking it. But yeah,
right, right,
uh, I mean, we didn't do a lot of takes on things because because of the money,
yeah.
So yeah, we put down what we could.
Right, right. Well, moving on to Strange Weather, 2016 Strange Weather, Sunshine Through the Rain.
Okay. That's something I came up with initially. I mean, me and Kevin and Kevin McCauley, who was in the band at the time, we all worked on it together. That's something that I had the basic demo version of, and then we kind of worked it out, and it evolved into what the final version. But that one's actually named after an Akira Kurosawa part in a movie. It's from there's a movie he had towards it might have been his last movie. It was called Dreams, and it's like in color, and they're like it's an anthology of dreams that he had. And I might be the first one in the it might be the first one in the movie, and it's about a small boy living in the rural countryside and in a like an old school Japanese house. And you're not really sure what time period is. It's just, everybody's wearing kimonos, and the mother tells the son not to go into the forest when it rains, because when the sun shines and the rain's out, because
Yeah.
when that happens, the foxes have their weddings.
Oh,
And so in Japanese culture, like foxes are considered like spirits, can be like mischievous, they can shapeshift into humans. Um, and they've been featured in other Kurosawa films and like samurai era films and or mentioned. And so the boy, of course, doesn't listen to his mom, goes into the woods during a sun shower, and sure enough, there's a procession of foxes, and they're having a wedding. And they're like they're humans dressed as foxes, but like
oh,
in
oh,
old
yeah.
school, like kimonos and like
Yeah,
samurai era clothing. And,
right.
and and it's very syncopated. And every time they march and they stop, they look like this, and the boy hides behind the
Yeah,
tree.
right.
So the procession goes by, kid goes back to the house, and as he walks up, the mom's kind of sitting there with her arms, like folded. And when he walks into the yard, his mom's like, I told you not to go into the forest. The foxes came by and they were not happy with you, and they left this. And she gives the small boy a knife, the kind of knife you commit,
Right. Very, very good.
suicide with.
Yeah, yeah,
And so she goes, if you want to apologize, you're gonna have to go into the meadow under the rainbow where the foxes live. And she gives the kid the knife, and that's the last you see the kid going into this field of flowers holding the knife towards the rainbow, and that's the end of the dream.
oh
So I kind of named
wow.
it after that.
Oh wow. That's
So
nice.
I just love the imagery in it,
Yeah,
and
imagery. I was gonna
um,
say, yeah.
yeah, I'm a huge Kurosawa fan. I just thought it was also a great, name for a tune that sounded like that. So.
Yes, yes. Well, March Hares is another one I like.
That's another one that I wrote. I mean, the basis of, I mean, we again, usually when I have something, I'll demo it, and then it becomes, I use GarageBand to demo, and then, I'll kick it over to Kevin, and then he'll massage it, and he'll come up with sounds that are based off of what I used. I just try to get a ballpark, and then, it was this kind of riff that I had forever that it was just kind of floating around, and it's kind of like a blues progression, but it's just kind of real. The drum beat just kind of bashes and goes through
Yeah,
it, and kind of psychedelic. Like, the guitar lines are kind of like real drony, and yeah, it's just a fun one to play. Definitely
yeah.
gets the blood pumping when you're on the kit.
Oh, I can imagine that. Yeah, anytime you have a riff that keeps coming back, you know you got to put that on, record that. You know you got to get
Hmm.
that, recorded because it's meant to if it keeps recurring like that. Well, and then another track off of that, Ice Age. Yeah,
Yep, that's another one I kind of came up with the initial idea. That was one that I had an initial idea, and we just kept adding like leads to it, and it just kept going like this and this and this and this. Yeah, it's just a fun one to play. It's very post-punk. Um, you know, I mean, Joy Division have a song called Ice Age. I wasn't trying to reference that, but yeah, I wasn't thinking like of a physical ice age, more of a mental one. You know,
mental. Okay, yeah. Well, were you into the sound, Adrian Borland? Were you into?
I never got into them. No.
Oh, really? That's somebody to check out. He passed away. He committed suicide a few years ago. But yeah, they've got some good material too. And
Yeah, I'm
that was
familiar
like,
with the band,
the,
but I don't really know much about them.
yeah, 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 post punk. I would put them in the not as good as the Chameleons, not anywhere. I don't think near the Chameleons, but they had that dark kind of sound, to the
Sure, sure.
guitar.
I
Uh,
I
go
think in
ahead.
Ice Age, the thing that is the bass line that's kind of like the riff. It really kind of drives it, and then it's just like all these different leads and sections. But again, it's another fun one to play.
Okay, okay. I thought of the sound because I didn't tell you. New Dark Age. They had a song called New Dark Age, and
Sure,
then
sure.
that's what I was thinking of
Yeah, it's
in
just
this
there's
song.
so many. I'm amazed at so many bands that I never got into. That I'm like,
Yeah.
why didn't I listen to these guys?
Right.
We have a friend who when the band started out when we were four piece, we used to jokingly refer to him as the fifth Darkhead. Our friend Bob
DJ.
Portella. He's like a like a local DJ in the area, and he's kind of like as I worked him at the record store. He's seen the majority of our shows. Bit of a legend in our area in terms of his musical knowledge, and he's still going and playing records out. And one of my best friends, but he is encyclopedic knowledge, so I'm sure he has listened to them before because he like it's
Yeah.
rare when I can stump him on a band
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I imagine he has.
that he hasn't listened to and or owned the record. So yeah.
Right. Right. Well, you mentioned you're working on new material.
Yeah, we actually have a whole album in the can. It's going to be called The Pendulum Swings, and it's a 10-song record, and we're just trying to find a way to get it out. Like we would definitely like to get it on a label. So if there's any labels out there checking this out, hit us up. We will put it out on our own. We're not affiliated with a label at the moment, so it would be preferable to get somebody else to help us with it. It's paid for, it's mastered, it's ready to rock. We just need to get it out, and we'll find the best way to get it out there, but it will come out.
That sounds good. Hopefully, yeah, maybe somebody watching this or you guys
Yeah,
are
we've been
got your,
shopping it around. It's
yeah.
tough. I mean, we're not 20 somethings, we're older. We're not quitting our day jobs right now to do this, but we're still, I mean, for us, the success is really just, we've been around 37 years. And for us, that's pretty awesome. I mean, most bands fold just because of the pressures or they don't want to do it anymore. We still really love playing music. And it's a bit of a tough sell, I think, for some people because we're an instrumental three-piece, so it might be hard, I think, for some people to understand how to market that or, the industry's not as strong as it was even, say, 10 years ago. It's hard. I mean, it's just it's a tough time for labels. The streaming has kind of destroyed things
Sure.
for bands. You got to constantly tour. It's a hard way to make a living.
Yeah.
And I think so yeah, for us getting it out there is the success and it will come out. Like I said, we're hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah. One way or the other. And
Yeah.
also any budding or older vocalists that are watching this that are interested, contact you guys if you want to be a
Yeah.
front man.
It's
Yeah.
hard.
Right.
It's hard. I keep jokingly saying like I'm gonna start singing just so I don't have to carry my drum kit around. We'll get somebody else to play drums
Yeah.
that's better than me. But
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. But I just
Yeah.
like complaining about moving my kid around.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Okay.
but yeah, it's gonna come out, and like I said, we released a lot of records on our own. We'll do it again if we have to, but it'd be great to work with a label that can promote us and
Yeah.
help us as a partner get it out there. Like
Yeah.
we did with Saint Marie. I mean, that was a really great. I mean, the record art was great. The owner did that, and they're not St. Marie's no longer doing, as you may know, they're not doing releases anymore. It transitioned into like a brick and mortar and online record store, which is really cool. But we for a while they were knocking them out of the park, just putting some really great stuff out there. Wyatt Parkins like put out some really good stuff on his label, and it was very, had a real aesthetic with the releases, and they're really nicely done. Colored vinyl, black vinyl, CD, digital, just really good job of it. And like I said, I'm sorry that they're not still putting out records. Just really put out some good stuff in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And I think that's hard to do these days. I mean, even some of the bigger labels having difficulties,
Yes, they
maintaining
are.
it.
Yes, they are. It's a tough time for music industry and musicians, everybody. Have you had any interest, vocalists? Have you had people applying or talking to you?
Not much,
No.
no. I mean, I mean, we haven't really been pushing it hard. We just kind of threw an ad out there and see what happens. And we're open to it, but it's just gonna have to be the right fit. We're pretty picky, you know. If we're gonna make that effort, it's gonna have to be somebody that's worth a while. And we're also in a difficult. It's not like again we're somebody that we're not playing 20 gigs a month and we're not as active as we used to be, but that doesn't mean we're stopping. We're still going forward. We're still doing our thing. It just is at a different rate these days. Um, we're just interested in putting out the music we like and hopefully other people will dig it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, how often are you playing live these days?
We haven't done a lot of shows this year, but we've basically been kind of padding try to pad our set with getting it up to snuff so we can do like the whole new album, the last EP, and we're like picking up some older stuff. So we've been working on that, but we're gonna be booking some stuff soon. So
Okay, sounds good. Well, Rob, refer viewers to your website.
www.deardarkhead.com. And you can pretty much get to all our social media through there or any of the music platforms that our stuff is on. And, you can contact us through there.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. All right. Well, all the best to you and all the best to say hi to the other guys.
Greg, thank you
And,
so much. I definitely will. It was a pleasure chatting with you. I really enjoyed it.
hopefully that the clouds behind you will clear up. Maybe after this
Yeah,
interview, the sunshine will come through. No,
absolutely.
but all right. Well, again, I've enjoyed it, and again, stay in touch, and I
Will
will
do.
send you a copy of this probably in about a week or so.
Sounds great, Greg. Thank you
All
so much
right.
for having me.
You're very welcome. All the best to you.
Have a great one. See you.
Bye bye. Bye bye for now.